Yo, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of this YouTube podcast format. Today, actually, I think it's the first time in English, but you gotta suck it up, guys, because I have two of the best coaches from all over the world here with me in this Zoom call setting to talk a little bit with me about all things coaching, like a deep dive into all things we cover at an event we will address later this podcast. So stay tuned. First of all, Luke, I think you just woke up, or when it's wake time at you, it's
Yeah.
8 a.m., isn't it?
It's 8 a.m. there. I've been up for 3 hours. I'm a 5 a.m.er.
So how's your day-to-day routine like right now? Now you're like retired.
I'm retired bodybuilding. Let's see, it's Tuesday, so I'll typically wake up and do international check-ins and forum posts first thing. And then I get my wife ready for work and my daughter ready for school because my wife works 2 days a week. And then usually this time's for check-ins leading into the J3U podcast. And then J3U podcast, a few more check-ins, and then it's legs. So we train legs on Tuesdays. So that's pretty much the schedule for today. It's work, work, more work, and a little bit of leg training.
Good to hear to see you still training and smashing it in the gym. Are you still doing golf?
I'm still playing a little bit of golf. Yeah, and Cal's gotten into it a little bit too, so he'll have to share his journey, but yeah, has his clubs here and there. Yeah, I'm still doing a little bit. It's been a bit busy with the show season, but yeah,
Yeah.
I'm still getting out there. I shot two over this weekend. We took the daughter and the wife out there and just had some fun and played some golf, and it was fun. But yeah, focus definitely is the shows because it's been last weekend was my first weekend off in 9 weeks. So
Oh, wow.
yeah.
As you coach so many international competitors now, how is it with shifted time zones and stuff? Do you set an alarm for night times when you have to wake up and do check-ins, like when people are about to step on stage, or how do you handle that in terms of workflow and so your circadian rhythm doesn't get interrupted or something like that?
Yeah, so it's actually funny. So I'll shift my day quite a bit. Like I'll use either supplementation, like some sort of combination of magnesium glycinate with melatonin to shift it, or I'll kind of nap during the day. I'll take a block to nap and I'll stay up through the hours that they're on stage. Depending on the time zone difference, like sometimes it lands really odd where I'll do the alarm thing, but I prefer to just be up in case anything happens. I've been doing the international clients for so long, I'm so used to it that it's almost second nature at this point. But I will say the first year you do it, where you're like drastic time zones, can be pretty tough because you're just like adapting to staying up so long and setting these check-in times and everything. But it's pretty smooth. And most of the time, you're getting first update during your day.
Mm.
So you're getting them to the point where it's like coasting to stage anyways. So it's
Yeah.
pretty easy. Um, it's not bad. It really isn't. Being on this side, it makes it pretty easy.
Yeah. Especially how you construct your show day setups and your peak week leading into the show. I mean, you always talk about not making peaking a like something like gambling and just be predictable with your decision making and stuff. So we will talk about that later. But Cal, I mean, in your case,
Guten
it's
Morgen,
like
everybody.
good. As I announced, we are about to do the podcast. Cal said he's going to talk German, so I'm
Yeah,
expecting
yeah, yeah.
something pretty wild here. No, Cal, in your case, it's even more extreme, I guess, where you're about to travel to the US and back all the time, pretty much. I mean, I can see that in your stories and stuff. So you were with Nas in the US. What show was it? Like Texas? Was it Texas?
Tampa. It
No,
was supposed to be
Tampa.
Texas, but we just did Tampa for what was that? 2 weeks ago now. 1 week ago. 2 weeks ago. To be honest, I actually find US easier because the time zone changes. I get a little bit in the day where people don't send me check-ins, which is quite nice. Like the two places that are better for work are America and Dubai because you're in the like 4 or 5 hour. I think US is 6 hours for Texas, but the time zone difference actually is quite nice for check-ins because you have a period of time in the day where you're not getting updates. Whereas if I'm in the UK now, it's all day because international clients will be either late or early, and then domestic clients will be through the day. So I actually quite like traveling, to be honest, because it makes my life easier because I have a period of time in the day where I don't have to do check-ins and I can do train or I can do other stuff.
How does your day-to-day life looks right now? Because I remember when I was with you in 2021 for my first summer season.
Yeah,
I was staying at your home, at your old home, I guess, wasn't it?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I remember just you working like all the time, ordering food, sipping a monster, and like working all the time. And also during night times, during your downtime, you sat on the couch watching TV with your wife, not wife, no, not
Wife,
wife,
yeah.
wife, yeah, wife. You were sitting there with your wife, and you were having your laptop on your lap and just working. So is it the same now?
Yeah,
You are also
nothing's
a
changed.
father. Nothing's changed.
No, same thing.
Good to hear. Good to
Same
hear.
thing. I think Luke will say once you get used to living a certain way, it just doesn't seem any different anymore. So I don't think it's I don't think doing what we do now is it's just life, and it's just second nature. It doesn't really you don't even think about it. You don't even
I
think
think it's
about it.
so cool because so many people are sitting out there like having the expectation of online coaching or prep coaching being such uh, a a job where you like sit a bit on the desktop and then you do a few check-ins and then get off and yeah, have all the time to train and all the time to enjoy life and
Yeah.
to vacay and stuff. Reality is what those two guys are talking about. Yeah, so a lot of work, but
I
I
think
mean,
the
it.
interesting thing there with time is you could probably make more time if you wanted to, but even the time that you make, your mind is going to be elsewhere, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So I think
yeah,
even when you're on holiday, even when you are trying to spend time with family, etc., you have to almost double down on the fact that you need to be present in other situations because otherwise your mind is just constantly on overdrive thinking about the other stuff. So I think
mhm,
it comes with a blessing. Like I've got a brother that works in a very corporate environment, and his life and his world is very different to mine, and I could never see myself in that environment. But I also
no,
know on the flip side, like we do a lot of hours, but I could never work any other way if that makes sense. Because this is what I love to do, and this is
yeah.
what I find. It comes with its benefits and it comes with its costs, but we wouldn't want it any other way.
I think when you're passionate about all that stuff, the benefits outweighs the
Oh, for sure.
cost by
Yeah,
a
for sure.
lot, by a lot.
100%.
Like I don't know how it's for you guys, but waking up every day like fulfilled in some kind is just a blessing
Yeah, for sure.
to do something we love. Yeah, by the way, congratulations on your oak wall. Yeah, with
Thank you,
Nas.
mate. Thank you very
That's very
much.
cool. Uh, Maybe we can dive a little bit into like NAS prep later on if we have time for that. But
For sure.
first of all, I mean, guys, we have something for all the people out there, and I want to like announce it now and then cover some like topics
Hmm.
we will address, like offer some value for all the people. But yeah, Luke, do you want to announce what is planned for all the people out there who want to be like better coaches, have a better understanding of what we do and how we handle our stuff and perform at such a good level with our athletes.
Yeah, so this was like a little bit of a conversation that was breeded about with me and Cal. Me and Cal tend to have our travel urges, and we tend to turn it into some sort of seminar event when we decide this will be our fourth year in a row doing an event together. So uh, this is just one of those weekends that I think will provide the most value we've ever done. I think top to bottom, we're just comprehensive educators. We've done it at every single level. And it's going to be one of those things that you're going to walk out of there, not only a better coach, but understanding how to be a better business person as well,
Yeah,
because the value that you'll get from every single topic that'll be covered will not only service your clients from a retention standpoint, but how we operate as humans and individuals is a big aspect of what makes us successful in the first place. Cal and I were talking about this while he was here in Texas. We luckily got to spend a good bit of time of like the systems and processes that get put into place in order to coach at the level that we coach. And that comes down to everything from the physiological side, from the nuts and bolts of how to coach, but also the real-time athlete case studies that we're going to be covering. That's going to be covering everything from training, nutrition, supplementation, PEDs, health metrics, how to kind of manage athletes in general. Because we also do the coursework at J3 University. I know Cal's got ICM. I know you've got some stuff with Progress, but this like intangible in-person experience of how to solve problems in real life and in real time is what's made us successful, right? Nothing is ever by the book. And so that's really where these in-person weekends come out, is because conversations get started, case
yeah.
studies get brought up, and things that you're not going to be able to teach in a course setting are solved in real time. So I think knowing what we've done in the past and knowing the topics we're planning to cover this week, it's going to be the most comprehensive experience we've ever done together. I'm super excited for it.
Yeah, totally. I think events like that are also very special in terms of like just bringing people with the same interests together as a community and we can interact with each other. I mean, we three haven't seen each other like together. Like Luke, I never saw you before in person. That's actually insane. But it brings people together and it starts, as you talked about before, like conversations and discussions. And I mean, this time actually, we've held a few seminars at Das Gym actually, but this time it brings international people all at the mecca of Austrian bodybuilding, and that is something truly special, and also means a lot, I think, to the Austrian bodybuilding community. But yeah, guys, hard facts seminar will be held on the second weekend of November. For all the Austrian athletes, it's 1 week after the biggest natural show here in the AMBF. So it's the 8th and the 9th of November. This will be the date where the seminar is held. And the very special thing about this seminar is it's a 2 day seminar. On the second day, we will close off like a whole gym floor for a few hours and do also a practical event. So not only you get all the things Luke was talking about before, like nutrition, supplementation, PEDs, and mapping out timelines and how we actually get people from A to B in a manner that's, yeah, bringing success with it. But you also get like hands-on training and practical experience. And I think it holds so much value. Like this event, it will blow people's minds, really. So I'm super hyped and excited about that, and that we bring that thing to our people. Especially now, as I thought we're not doing it.
Well,
Yeah.
me and Luke had a burger together last week, and we were like, "Yeah, we should probably do that Austria seminar."
And then Luke sent me
And
a
now we're
2 minute
here.
voice note. Luke sent me a 2 minute voice note, and then just my whole world exploded because we talked about like that seminar 4 months ago,
Yeah.
and then all things were planned in the background, and now we're here.
Yeah.
So the the first topic, or one big topic of the seminar, will be, of course, getting an athlete, yeah, from A to B, but in in our fashion, like planned out, precise, and in a fashion that's like sustainable in the over the long course. Cal, one question for you, like, how do you identify when a high level elite athlete comes to you, like a pro athlete, and he says he wants to get to the Olympia, for example? How do you identify what an athlete really needs to work on? Like, where are the deficiencies in this athlete? And that not only comes, I don't mean that in just a physique perspective, like needs analysis and stuff, and where are weak points, but just how do you get to know people so damn quick?
I think a lot of the especially on the spectrum of like gifted athletes, a lot of the guys or girls that are on the spectrum of being like the 1%, the ones that are super gifted, the ones that have a lot of potential, but a lot of athletes that we'll get will be the ones that have the potential that people can say, oh, they could be so good, but they've never quite nailed it, or they've never quite been 100%, or they've never quite fulfilled that potential. And I think the irony is for a lot of those guys and girls, the coaching thought process you probably think is like the really sexy stuff and the stuff that's like super secretive and the stuff that's like secret protocols, but in
Yeah,
actuality it's treating those athletes as an athlete that's doing the first NPC regional and laying foundations that they probably skipped before because they were so gifted from a grassroots level. They probably won a regional overall by doing an 8 week diet. Then they turned pro in the first pro qualifier they ever did, and they've never quite made it as a pro, or they've never quite placed in a pro show, or they've never quite come top three, or if they've never quite they've never qualified for the Olympia. And I think a lot of those guys there will be like the 1% details and the simple stuff done at a very very high level over and over and over and over again is the biggest kind of missing piece for those guys, because a lot of the time they've relied on what they've got for a long period of time to get them where they are now, and for them to close the gap to get to the very highest level, Naz being a really good example. It's the 1% that when you start approaching the the process as a bodybuilder, as an athlete, with those 1% in mind, getting nailed every single day, nutrition, sleep. Like you, if I showed you his PD protocol, you would think I was lying. Or the reason is because he doesn't. That's not the missing factor for him. The missing factor is everything else in relation to that. The training side of things, his ability to adjust training to where it actually needs to be, his ability to execute in the gym, his ability to think about everything he's doing and how that fits within the bigger picture for his weaknesses, and the ability to manage his strengths so they're not taking up too much of his time. Like one of the things that we can run through on the gym floor is your ability to execute training at a very high level relative to you, but also like if we're bringing an athlete in and we talk about a needs analysis, like how many times have we seen athletes that come to us where the programming is so generic on the level of they're on a push pull legs, or they're on an upper
and
lower, or they're
just
on whatever
yeah,
programmer it is, and it's not actually specific to anything they're doing. And then as soon as you make things more specific, they're like, oh my god, can't believe the progress I'm making. Well, it's just I haven't done anything magical. I've just addressed you as an athlete and made it specific to your needs.
yeah. Do you uh, do you see like big jumps in progression in terms of a physique perspective, like with athletes performing at such a high level, like with elite level genetics, uh, when they nail down all the basics because they haven't done that before?
100%. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think there's also a mindset shift there. When you get athletes that do that, you get athletes that are very gifted that suddenly become very grounded as athletes as well.
Mm.
Whereas when they've always done things their way because it's worked, you get a certain level of naivety and immaturity to an athlete. When you get an athlete brought back down to square one, where it's like you're gonna have to do the same shit that everyone else does, and you're gonna have to do that at a very high level, you suddenly get a lot more well-rounded mindsets, a lot more well-rounded, grounded mindsets. And if you can apply genetics and work ethic and the ability to stay grounded, they're going to go a very, very long way.
Yeah. I think I think many people out there thinking that yeah, we have some magic in our toolbox, some magic tools in our toolbox
I wish I
to
did.
yeah.
Yeah, I wish I did too. I'd be even that much better.
But I think it's just deploying like the basic stuff and the right tools at the right time and communicating them well and like don't focus too much on the minutia, like on the small stuff as talked about before. Like Luke, I know that you're a big advocate of like optimizing training, optimizing programming, optimizing like biomechanics, but not optimizing in a way that you like make the athlete overthink, but optimizing it in a way it just fits the needs of the athlete. Uh,
Mhm.
what do you think? I mean, how can movement setup, execution, the standards you set there for the athlete, how can that change like everything, especially when a gifted athlete comes from a background where he did like some crap in the gym?
Yeah, I think a lot of it starts with the assessment process and how you go about assessing an athlete, right? There's generic assessment and then there's athlete specific assessment. And when you build out that needs analysis for the athlete, part of what you're doing is figuring out what to test. And so, really, what programming becomes is a science experiment. So, if you guys are familiar with just like testing a hypothesis, it's like that's all you're doing every week. And so, if you don't create a system of assessment, video review, with execution, and then rework. Like I tell people when they onboard with me, their programming is a live document for the first 5 weeks until I figure this out perfectly for them. And by a live document, I mean something that's going to shift and change based on how I see they can take feedback and apply it. And that's a really key aspect of that. I don't think people understand is like bodybuilding becomes a game of how can we apply inefficiency, so the ability to drive mechanical tension as accurately as possible so that it doesn't take as much load to create that tension, but also do it in a setting where they can shut their brain off and progress that almost perpetually. So if you look at like an example of someone who just bought into this, like Emily King is probably the classic example for me, where it's just like if you look at that 1 year transformation, it's unreal. Like the difference between her turning pro and winning her pro card in Australia versus what we've done this year and the amount of tissue she carries. That girl Smith squatted for 11 months straight. She has not Smith squatted before then without pain for longer than like 6 weeks. And what changes there? Why does that change? That changes because we knew what we were doing, what she was doing wrong from a movement perspective. We fixed those movement things. We fixed the setup things in order to allow her to be able to get into the right positions within the Smith squat. We taught appropriate bracing and breathing throughout a Smith squat in order to get into those right positions.
Can
And
you
we,
elaborate on that as an example for all the guys watching? Like what
yeah,
you changed in her Smith squat specifically to alleviate the pain and like continue with progression of this movement?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things with her is like she moves relatively decently at the hip, and relatively decently at the ankle, but it's not enough to load squatting in a place where it keeps her rib cage stacked over pelvis. So in the past, she would squat barefoot. That foot wouldn't be aligned to the middle portion of the bar. So we would get a lot of pelvic dump in the bottom of the squat pattern because it wasn't loading her midfoot and allowing for her hips and knees to move at the same time. And so she had a lot of lower back issues kind of in the past with different program setups. And literally all it took was using a Smith machine so that you could keep the bar path consistent, align that to the midfoot, address the dorsiflexion with some heel elevated shoes, and then better cueing, which was instead of most wellness girls, bikini girls do this like outward foot pressure cueing because they're trying to get so much glute because that's what they think drives glute. and then fix that foot pressure cueing into like mid-foot cueing, so pushing that big toe down. Like that was it for her. Like it wasn't anything too complicated, but we did that by teaching her how to do it in a single-legged movement. Once she learns a single-legged movement, then we translate it to bilateral. And that's like a process, right? That doesn't start at the single-legged pattern. It starts with the assessment, and then it transitions into testing, and then it transitions into a different portion of the session, then single-legged movements, and then squatting. And so when you teach a high level athlete like that, like, and I can send you the side by side, it's like this girl is literally 3.5 to 4 kilos heavier this year than she was on stage last year.
That's
And
crazy.
Cal watched it in person in Texas. Like,
Yeah.
Mm,
it's a lot of freaking tissue. Um,
Yes.
and so it's something where like if you don't know what you're looking for, you're gonna miss it. And that's kind of where like when we teach the system, you're going to be able to pick it out rather than teaching like one case versus the other and then apply the cases to the system so that you can see the differences. That's where like in the seminar, like I told Cal I've built out some new lecture work that I'm planning
yeah,
to test at the seminar of like this process of assessment, injury profile building, how do we combine these into how we build programming? And it's like you take a process and a system. I'm going to have multiple case studies I've already applied this with ready. And we're going to go through the different variables and see how do we apply that. And now you can fit shoulder issues that prevent chest development. We can fix scapular issues that address back development, like or limit back development. It's like now it's not the problem that's the problem. It's just you stick it into this little formula, if you want to think of it that way, this process or this system, and you can solve anything if you know what you're looking at. It simplifies it so much. And I want to add this to kind of Cal's little spiel. If you have these tools, I've gone as far as I wrote a whole lecture for the University VIP that was around building block schedules for athletes. I started doing this myself where I take people's kind of day to day and I help them map it out to be as efficient as possible. And I've built the system around it to kind of help with it. It's something that you can create or intangible results with just these little details of efficiencies to the day. Because how many times, like, Cal, have you had an athlete caught somewhere without food or caught somewhere with something they
yeah.
need? And it's
Mm.
purely schedule related. It's like you're just being an idiot. Like, no offense, my job is to make you better. Like, some of you guys are idiots when it comes to how you manage your day to day.
Totally.
Like,
See that all the time. Yeah.
but that's why I've started as my coaching process. Like, I do this for athletes now. Like, I help them build this. Like, it's so easy to do, and it makes the biggest difference.
Mm.
Mm, yeah, 100%. Yeah, we want to try to get this whole process you talked about to the guys over at the seminar in a more or less like standardized way so they can apply it to their athletes and their clientele. So I think we will elaborate on that like further down the road. Yeah, cool. So in next big topic we will also cover is like, as we talked about before, mapping out timelines, structuring like off-season contest prep, holding phases, health phases, this and that. So as we move forward in a contest prep, as we move forward in a off-season setting, Cal, uh, what are some like from your practical standpoint, what are some of the biggest challenges like athletes face when it comes to like, for example, let's take contest prep first, uh, and later down the line I would like you to like address when you decide to make adjustments. For example, all guys up there want us to talk about performance enhancing drugs and stuff, and how it's a topic all guys want to hear about. So when do you like decide to escalate dosing and make adjustments there, or rather focus on the nutrition side of stuff? Um, but first, like biggest challenges in terms of the prep setting you've seen over like the past years?
I think it all just comes down to being one step ahead of the process at all times, and you'll run into substantially less issues in off season or prep if you are just forecasting ahead of what's in front of you now. So the same as if you have decision making in off season or contest prep, where when we make a decision, whether we're conscious of it or not, we'll base decisions off what we feel as though the intended response is and what the other implications of that decision are in the first place. So if we're adjusting the diet, or we're adjusting training, or adjusting pharmacology, it's intended to have this response, but by making that adjustment, it's also gonna impact these things as well. It's gonna impact recovery. It's all gonna impact sleep, or it's gonna impact, lab work. It's gonna impact whatever. So I think that is, being open minded from a coaching perspective, but thinking critically. I think the biggest thing when it comes to maximizing the off season, being selective with what improvements you're making, maximizing the year as a whole, not just short stints of the year, not just the time that you're on cycle, not just those pockets of time. Turning up to stage on point and not missing the mark, not being late to condition in contest prep. It all just comes down to having thorough planning and scheduling before the things actually taking place in the first place. So don't think about week to week adjustments. Think about an annual plan. Think about quarterly plans of knowing exactly where you are within the coaching process, and gauging that week based on where you need to be and how fulfilled the current task is within the phase that you're in. Because then you're in a position where, are we on track, or are we behind schedule? Because I know in 12 weeks time to be there, I need to be here right now. And if we're not on schedule, we can make adjustments in accordance to that to get back on schedule. If we're on track, it gives us the peace of mind that we can continue proceeding forwards with the peace of mind that we're going to nail this in 10, 12, 13 weeks time, whatever it might be. So it's a very simple way of looking at things, and it sounds very simple, but it will give you full clarity within the coaching process once you have the ability to know how to do this. And it will also give the athlete clarity, because they know exactly where they're at, and they also know they're on track to hit the target. They don't know, they're not thinking at 8 weeks out, scratching head, thinking, I'm not sure if I'm going to make it, or I'm not sure if I'm going to be ready in time. They're not constantly messaging you on their check-ins saying, do you think we're going to make the show? Do you think we're going to be lean enough? Like, they already know, because you've talked about it every single week and they can see it in front of them. So that, in terms of stress management for both you and the athlete, is invaluable. And I think hitting the mark both in off season
Yeah.
and contest prep just comes down to your ability to just stay on top of the process and know they're exactly where they need to be at all times.
Yeah, I think it's very important to like construct the whole process from A to B in a very predictable manner. And what I always talk about is to like secure the prep outcome at the beginning of prep, to like make sure the athlete is in time, the athlete will be ready, the athlete will be like up there with the most amount of muscle mass in the condition that's necessary. And that's also the reason why we always talk about like starting to think about the whole prep process not only like 16 weeks out, but maybe 1 year out, to map out this exact timeline, because we all know how difficult it can get when we onboard someone who's like 14 weeks out and decides now, yeah, let's hit up Cal. I wanna get coached by you now. And you see the person and start thinking, okay, this will be a fucking tough right now. Yeah. You tell them like it would have been so much better in terms of your outcome and in terms of like how the whole process is structured if you came to me like 10 better like 20 to 40 weeks earlier, so we can map out the time and we can map out maybe a pre-prep phase where we can get you to a good starting position for prep and all that stuff. Because I think that's one of the most crucial things when it comes to like securing the prep outcome and securing like a smooth prep, like a smooth process, and not going in there with like the the big changes from the beginning on, where athletes have to
Yeah.
do like 90 minutes of cardio and like using all tools from our pharmacology toolbox. uh that's not optimal, guys. So if you ever decide to like prep and want to get coached, like think about it in advance. Like think about it like 1 year before. Better
Yeah, for sure.
even earlier. Like the more we can get you to know us, and we can get to know you, the better it is, and the better the outcome will be, and the better we can construct the whole timeline from like your off season right now with like health restoration phases, quote unquote, with like everything that's in it. And also the stuff that Luke has talked about before, like optimizing training and stuff. This is the stuff that happens also in the off season. Like
Mm.
when it comes to your coach, like 14 weeks out, and you now have to get like into prep. We don't want to change like everything you're doing right now and look over your whole training execution, optimize biomechanics, maybe even solve injury problems. That's suboptimal. So yeah, a prep starts so early for me. So thinking about prep starts so early for me, and I know it's the same for you guys.
Mm.
Yeah, when you fix some of the training stuff, like it wrecks people so quickly, like
Yeah,
it's like a different training. Like,
yeah,
but kind of have to, Cal, I think of us squatting in Manchester. Like you just kind of got to let them do like what they're doing when you catch them so late. Cause it's like if you change too much, it's
yeah.
like you're just gonna completely ruin the ability to fat loss. But
Yeah.
you're just kind of sitting back there on the bench, like, oh, this should not be this should not be happening.
So basically, after the seminar in Manchester, I kissed a couple of years ago. I think we had safety bar squats, and I'd put like 220 kilos in the safety bar squat with a hill wedge, and I was squatting. I could see Luke behind me, just being like, "Oh my god!" He's like he was just trying to not watch because my knees were just like in this position the whole time, and I was like, "It feels good." Just bouncing in and out. I was like, yeah, there's a time and place. This is probably not the time and
Oh,
place.
that was a fun week.
I remember the times of COVID where you had the racket home
Oh
with also the
yeah.
safety bar, all the
That
weights
was in
up
my
there.
garage. That was great. I love that. I love that. That was probably
Yeah,
my most enjoyable. As weird as it sounds, it's probably my most enjoyable time of training, just because you could just go into the back garden. You had minimal kits. There was no.
yeah.
It's very simple. What you had access to is just minimal. It's just simple. It was good fun though.
No fancy stuff. Just following like what did you do? Like a simple push pull legs and like minimal
Yeah,
exercise selection and just hammering it.
100%.
I think it's so much fun to do that. It's so
Yeah, it
much
is.
fun.
It is.
Nowadays, do you think yet outside of like our topics we covered in the seminar, do you think this overthinking stuff like training and stuff like that becomes a little bit too much these days?
Um,
In terms of
I,
like
I
all the optimization from a yeah, now you have to train like every muscle group like 3 times a week with the same movement pattern in the same plane to hit the exact same muscle fibers in that way, because otherwise atrophy occurs and whatever. Do you think that stuff gets a little bit overanalyzed?
yeah, I would say I think it's pulling people out of being an athlete. Like there's a
yeah.
balance to strike. And Cal and I talk about this all the time. It's like knowledge will take you a long ways, but there's got to be some sort of instinctual desire to kill, for lack of a better word. Like if anybody doesn't understand what I'm saying, like just go watch the Jordan documentary. Like, that's all you need, right? And that's like exactly kind of what you need these athletes to have. And then you need to apply that in a smart way, which is then where the biomechanics stuff comes into place. I don't think we can't do it the opposite way. Like we can't do it like through the biomechanics and try to create an athlete. It needs to be an
Mm.
athlete, it needs to be refined with this biomechanics conversation. Wouldn't you agree, Cal?
For sure. I think anyone that excels here is partly a savage. Like you've got to have that killer instinct to be in a position where you make like exceptional progress. You're not going to make exceptional progress unless you have that little bit of your mindset that's just your point of difference. And the athletes that make the quickest progress and refine the most and progress the quickest usually more often than not, have like Luke said, have got that kind of killer instinct, and the problem is when you have athletes that apply the intricacies and the change of exercise selection and the programming nuances that you'll see sometimes we kind of bias towards athletes in certain situations. They apply that, but they don't have the backing of the ability to apply effort at a very high level. Those are the guys that make the other stuff have a bad rep because they don't make progress because the effort size is not there. But when you have an athlete that is a workhorse, that is a savage, that can work harder than anyone else, and you apply that stuff at the same time, then you get crazy progress. So I think it's not a case of I think there is a certain level of overthinking and there's like paralysis by analysis there, but and you'll see like if you come to the seminar, you'll see potentially the preconceived idea you have in your mind of how we program and how we think is actually a lot more simple and practical than you think it is, but you're just not applying it in the right way. And once you
Yeah.
hear us say it, then it will start to make sense. And then you can go, oh, it's actually isn't as fancy as I thought it was. It's concepts that I can apply that I just need to know how to apply in the first place.
Yeah. I think most people already know that stuff at a basic level, but don't know how to apply it correctly for the
They
athlete, for the individual.
it almost might be an instinctual thing they don't know how to
Yeah.
fix, but they know it's there.
Yeah.
And it's like, let's actually break that down and teach you what it is and actually how to
Yeah.
get out of it in the first place. And that's where the light bulb is.
Yeah. 100%. So, Luke, when it comes to an athlete that wants to prep, how do you structure it like from a let's say a 1 year out perspective in terms of off season? Do you usually do a pre-prep phase as I talked about before, where you bring the athlete already a bit down to have a better starting point for prep, better starting position? How do you plug in like health phases, uh, and then like the rundown into like the contest prep scenario? And also what I would be interested in, and the viewers also, do you ever run like rebound phases, quote unquote, after shows where you keep like all the stuff, all the tools we use in, and make tremendous progress? Or do
Man.
you use the phase like nutrition is the main driver for progress in that phase?
Yeah, so let's start timeline side first. It always reverse engineers. So you take where the athlete's at, you take where you approximately think they're going to need to be for contest shape, and then you reverse engineer that back. And I like to use a rate of loss of 0.5% per week, just to be on like the low end. Like the first portion of prep, you might run like 1%, and that's fine. But I use like a 0.5% reverse engineer that. I get about how many weeks I need to diet that person. And then basically the off-season phases and pre-prep phases and those types of things are all built according to getting that person to that start point. So like it tells me how much room I have on the off season to push up. It tells me how much I need to rinse off in the pre-prep phase, or if I have a pre-prep phase, is it better to rinse off body fat while compounds are still in play and then have that be more of a maintenance phase? Like there's a few different ways to skin the cat. But it all comes down to, and this is what I think the like a systems based approach does is what's the goal? The goal is inside out shredded by your show day. Okay, if that's the case, we have to run a rate of loss across the entire prep. What is hopefully the worst case scenario of that? Let's map that out because we're probably gonna hit road bumps at some point. Let's give ourselves a little wiggle room, and then that's your start point. And then based off that, you just build every other phase based on getting into that point. And so even if you overestimate, you will always be ready early where you can put food back in and reverse into the show. And I think that's a big, like, what's the word? Myth, I guess, to address is like, there's not really such a thing as being ready too early if you know how to manage it. Like, that's the caveat, right? Like, if you know how to manage it. Emily has been contest ready since the beginning of July, and it is late August.
Hmm.
She has only stepped on stage heavier and heavier every single show. Like it's well managed if you know how to do it. And so this is kind of where if you do a worst case scenario type of a build out on timeline, it helps it. And then I think that
Yeah.
transitions you into post show, right? Where you're going into the post-show phase having pretty much reversed into the show in the first place, where you can just use those tools nutritionally, recover from the health detriment that you've taken from the contest prep, and then push on a full off season, so 20, 24 weeks, rather than just like the first 8 weeks post show. But all of that is set up from the reverse engineering of the rate of loss from the contest prep and then sequencing those phases in. And that's where it's like people get so lost in off seasons. It's like, yeah, because you don't know where you're going. Like, where are
Yeah,
you going? Like,
yeah.
if you do other, then it's easy to see what you're doing with someone.
Mm.
I think it get it gets people so much more driven when they have clear structure, when they have clear like systems in place, a framework in place where they can operate like throughout the whole off season. So it also like it it negates the fact that the person comes out of prep, is now entering a health phase, maybe maybe has difficulties with that, like mindset wise, and then doesn't know where he or she is going. Like it when they have clear timelines already set up for them in terms of like health phase, off season, maybe even a a horizon where they can see their next season, even though we also do like stuff like that reactively then down the line, like being reactive inside our proactive system. Even then, like it gives them so much structure and so much more drive to already nail down the off season in the first place. And I think that's very important. I think that's very important. So, Cal, um, I think that's the last thing I want to cover. Like in terms of gaining feedback from the athlete. And before I forget it, like all the stuff we're covering right now, we're covering much more in depth in the seminar. So all the stuff, how we set up those systems, how we set up those timelines, all those things we will cover at the seminar because it's
Mm.
so damn important to like also get a visualization of that stuff in terms of case studies and how we handle it out there in the real world, yeah, to like really understand it. And yeah, 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 Luke, you can go whenever you want. No, we will be finished in like 5 minutes. So Cal, do you have like a framework in your mind knowing when to push an athlete, when to pull back in terms of a PD perspective or even like nutrition perspective when it's when there's a ceiling reached in an off-season setting, for example? Do you have like clear markers or a clear feedback you want to get from the athlete in terms of making those decisions?
Yeah, like there's definitely a framework we can work off, and then I think more so instead of having a preconceived idea of what the magnitude of adjustments are, I think the biggest thing there is the ability to interpret the athlete's data and based on their input and what you're seeing in live time on week to week check-ins, the decisions that will come off the back of those adjustments in the first place. And also, I think one of the key points of learning there that we'll go through in the seminar is looking at adjustments not in the sake of, and I mentioned it briefly before, but I think this is where coaching really takes another level. In the sense of if we make a diet change or we make an output change or we make a drug change, it's having the awareness of, yeah, it may result in us moving in this direction, but it's influencing three other things at the same time. And then that is also influencing the grand scheme of prep and how long we can spend there, the direction we're moving in, the stability of the athlete. When we can start thinking about adjustments as like a bigger picture, a bigger picture. We've all seen those. We've all seen those diagrams that are like tree diagrams where it has like one thing, yes or no, and then it leads to somewhere else. Like one of the really cool teaching points we can go through with a lot of this stuff is we could have like a pharmacology tree, we could have a diet tree, we could have a training tree, we could have an expenditure tree, and then we can also put all those things together into one, and it gives you a pretty systematic way of thinking in terms of like I can interpret one adjustment, but I know it's going to impact three other things, And when we have that level of understanding, our decision making becomes even more accurate because then it's not just making decisions just off the whim. It's not just randomly making adjustments and hoping for the best. You can make things in a much more calculated manner. And if you then have timeline considerations, like Luke said before, and you have full control over the whole allotted amount of time, and you can also understand on a deeper level the impact every adjustment is making. Like we're then just in control of the entire 100% process. And in honesty, as crazy as it sounds, like if you can nail those two things, like
Yeah.
it's actually hard. It's hard to miss the mark if we can nail those two things. Like it actually becomes difficult for you not to do
Yeah.
well.
100%.
You
100%.
know? So
Yeah, I guess stuff like that is so damn important for the people to understand. Like that when you have those thought processes and those systems in place, it's hard to not get it right. So
for sure.
something has to get like fucked up to not get it right. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
we've all seen consultations with athletes that you might have to take over a prep and it's a nightmare. You might have to take over
Yeah.
a rep, when they're
Yeah.
12 weeks out, or you might have to take over a post-show phase. And when we see the programming they're doing in our mind, it's like this makes no logical sense whatsoever. And
Yeah.
that's where, like, this is where the preps are being ruined because decisions are just being thrown in the mix without any
Yeah.
consideration. And then we're picking it up on the other side, being like, "What are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
this has no logic to it whatsoever." But it
Like
has.
Jess in Texas, right?
Exactly, same kind of thing. Same
Like
kind of
Yeah.
thing.
so Jess is a WPD pro of mine. She did Chicago with a different coach and got like 10th. And I was at Chicago and she was like came to me like crying, like I don't know what's happening. Like I've put so much effort into this, like whatever. And she was like, "Will you help me?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And we had 3 weeks to Texas, and in Texas she was 12 pounds lighter and she got fourth.
Yeah.
And it's like just pulling the yarn, like just you just like
Yeah.
pull logical stuff, and it's just like it just call comes into pieces, and then you're just like left with so much progress so fast. It's like it's so easy to do if you have this stuff in place.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
I think having conversations like that and also then applying that stuff to the athlete in a way that fits the individual is like crucial for all coaches. And that's exactly what the reason and that's exactly the reason we are holding that seminar
Yeah.
and bring you guys over to Das gym. The
Love it.
it's the gym of all gyms. Cal, what?
One thing I will say to
Yeah,
finish is, regardless of the coaching level you're at, or if you're an athlete that wants to learn the intricacies of the process and how we think to apply
yeah,
that to your own programming, regardless of the level you're at, don't see this from the outside perspective as it's going to be too advanced for me, or I'm not going to be able to take a lot from it,
no,
because the beauty of what we do now and for how long we've done it, we can teach in a way that anyone that can understand and apply at any level, whether you're a natural athlete doing a regional, whether you're a pro athlete trying to qualify for the Olympia, the principles and the way of thinking applies to any situation. So once you understand the bigger picture thinking, it, it will click in so many different ways. You'll be shocked. So just trust
yeah.
us on the standpoint of if you are on the fence and you're not quite sure, just trust me. If you come and you lend your ears and you really stay open minded about this, you'll be shocked at the amount of stuff you can apply from this.
And as we talked about before, it's much more basic than guys think, but it's more so that we apply those things at the right time in the right framework for the right person. And
Yeah,
it's simple as that. And we will dive much deeper into all that stuff we covered in today's podcast, in today's pretty cool talk. So it was pretty nice to have you guys over here like spontaneously. Yeah. Kind of spontaneously. So I texted in our group in the morning and asked, yeah, what about today? Like doing it today. And Luke, it was like yesterday night you read my text, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, fine. Yeah, and now we're here. So thanks guys for showing up. Thanks guys for all the value you delivered in today's like podcast episode, YouTube podcast, whatever. I think we covered a lot of stuff in a way where, yeah, coaches and athletes can take a lot away from, but it will take much more away from when it comes to Vienna on the 8th and 9th of November. So thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys for like being the fine human beings you are and teach in such a great way. And you can get much more of that when it comes to Vienna, as I talked about. Yeah, so I think that's it. Do we have any kind of final words for the people out there?
I will. Are you putting this on YouTube or
Yeah, YouTube.
I'll just put the landing page link in the YouTube video just so if you check the
Yeah,
bio of the.
yeah, it's all linked down in the description below. It's all linked down. It's all linked down, and we can also put a huge banner of the seminar while we are doing that podcast, like everywhere, like place it everywhere, like you placed Dust Gym in front of your head in the
Yes.
picture. This was ridiculous. Laugh hard at this. Yeah, cool. Thanks, guys. Have an amazing day. Thank you guys for watching,
All
and
good.
we'll see you in the next episode. Maybe German, maybe English. We don't know. If we should bring those two guys like again up for some more topics over the next few months, then let me know. Write in the comments below, and we'll catch up with you guys later on.
All
Thank
good,
you.
brother.
Bye.
Peace.